Welcome to Stories TH. In today's story, we're diving deep into the life of a young girl who faced unimaginable rejection, but found the strength to rise again. This journey is filled with pain, heartbreak, but also courage and hope. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Stories TH for more powerful stories like this one. Your support means the world to us. The journey begins the abandonment. Maria, a young girl of just 13, found herself standing at the precipice of life, abandoned by the very people who should have loved her unconditionally, her parents. The reason? She was pregnant. The burden of societal shame weighed heavily upon her as her family turned their backs on her in her time of need. As the door slammed behind her, leaving her standing in the cold, Maria felt like a shadow in the world, a being whose very existence seemed to be too much for the people who were supposed to nurture her. In that moment, Maria felt lost and invisible, a child left to face the world's harsh judgment alone. As Maya Angelou once wrote, "We may be hurt, but we can heal ourselves." These words reverberated in Maria's mind, even though she did not yet understand their depth. The pain she felt was not just for being rejected by her family, but also from society's inability to show compassion and understanding. In many ways, her story was a reflection of the struggles faced by many young women who, like Maria, are often condemned by society for making mistakes or finding themselves in difficult situations. The abandonment she experienced serves as a stark reminder of how our society frequently fails to offer understanding or forgiveness to those who need it most. It's not just about being abandoned physically, but the emotional scars that come with being forsaken by those who are supposed to be your foundation. It is a cruel paradox that, when we are at our lowest, the people who should love us often turn their backs, driven by fear, shame, or ignorance. Maria's parents' actions reflect the deeply ingrained, judgmental attitudes of society, an unforgiving world that leaves little room for grace or redemption. In this part of Maria's journey, we are reminded that healing is not just a physical process, but an emotional and psychological one. Maria's path ahead was uncertain, but the first step was already set in motion. She had been abandoned, but now she would begin to search for a way to survive, to heal, and to reclaim her dignity in the face of rejection. As Maya Angelou so powerfully stated, healing begins when we acknowledge our wounds and take the first steps towards mending them. Maria would have to find her own strength to rebuild her life. Seeking refuge. With nowhere to go, Maria wandered the streets, seeking shelter from a world that felt cold and indifferent. She was lost not just in the physical sense, but also emotionally, as her heart ached from the betrayal she had endured. She tried knocking on doors, looking for anyone who would offer a safe space, a refuge from the harshness of the world that had cast her aside. But the world didn't seem to care. Maria's story, however, took a turn when she encountered Margaret, an elderly woman who opened her heart and home to the frightened girl. In the warmth of Margaret's bakery, Maria found a semblance of peace, a momentary escape from the turmoil of her life. Margaret's kindness was like a balm to Maria's wounded spirit, showing her that there were still good people in the world who saw the humanity in others, even in the most dire of circumstances. Margaret's compassion represented the power of human kindness in a world that often seems devoid of it. Through Margaret's actions, we see the importance of offering help to those who are suffering, even when we are uncertain of the outcome. Margaret did not need to know the details of Maria's situation to offer her a safe place. Her humanity and empathy were enough. This is a key theme echoed in Maya Angelou's work, the idea that kindness can heal even the deepest wounds. Angelou often wrote about the transformative power of love and empathy, and Margaret's role in Maria's life is a clear example of this healing power in action. In life, it's easy to become discouraged by the overwhelming cruelty that exists. But, as Margaret's example shows, there's always the possibility of finding light in the darkest of times. When others are quick to turn away, there are still those who step forward with open arms, offering refuge to the lost. Margaret's act of kindness provided Maria with the opportunity to rest, regroup, and find the strength she would need to continue her journey. It wasn't just shelter. It was a gesture of unconditional love and support, which Maria had never experienced before. Maya Angelou's message here resonates. We are capable of healing, and sometimes that healing comes through the compassion of others. The world may be harsh, but there are still people who will offer you shelter, even when you have nothing left. This theme of unconditional love is vital for Maria's emotional recovery. Margaret's kindness, though small in comparison to the world's overwhelming cruelty, offered Maria the first real glimmer of hope. And in this hope, Maria would find the strength to continue her journey, struggling for survival. The days in Margaret's bakery were not without their struggles. As Maria slowly recovered from the shock of being abandoned, the weight of her situation became more apparent. The judgment from the community was palpable. The stares, the whispered conversations behind her back, and the gossipy murmurs about the pregnant girl living in Margaret's bakery all weighed heavily on her shoulders. But through it all, Maria remained determined. She knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but she also understood that survival was her only option. Margaret's support gave her the courage to continue fighting, and her determination to reclaim her life became stronger each day. In many ways, Maria's fight for survival reflects the experiences of many people who have been marginalized or abandoned by society. Whether due to gender, race, or social standing, many individuals face obstacles that seem insurmountable. However, the struggle for survival can also be a transformative journey. It is through these hardships that we often find our true strength. Maria's resilience can be seen as a reflection of Maya Angelou's belief in the importance of perseverance. Angelou often wrote about the challenges faced by individuals who were oppressed or pushed to the margins, and she celebrated their strength to overcome adversity. In Maria's story, we see this same strength as she continues to fight for herself and her unborn child, even in the face of judgment and rejection. Finding inner strength, as the weeks passed, Maria began to rediscover her sense of self-worth. Despite the negativity and the harshness of the world around her, she started to realize that her value did not lie in the judgments of others. Her worth was inherently defined not by the mistakes she had made, but by her ability to keep moving forward. Margaret's kindness had planted the seed of hope in Maria's heart, and now Maria was learning to nurture it. She began to realize that she had the power to change her circumstances, to rewrite her story. Her journey was not just about surviving, it was about reclaiming her agency and finding the strength to shape her own future. Maya Angelou often wrote about the importance of finding one's voice and the strength to rise above circumstances. For Maria, this meant learning to forgive herself and to embrace her future, no matter how uncertain it seemed. She was learning to let go of the shame that had once defined her and to take control of her own destiny. Redemption and forgiveness. The turning point in Maria's story comes when she is forced to confront the people who abandoned her. It is through this confrontation that she learns the true meaning of forgiveness. Maria's journey is not just about survival. It is also about redemption. As she faces her parents once again, she learns that forgiveness is not about excusing their behavior, but about freeing herself from the weight of anger and resentment. Forgiveness, as Maya Angelou so often expressed, is a gift we give to ourselves, not to those who have wronged us. By letting go of the past and accepting her circumstances, Maria begins to heal emotionally and spiritually. This process of forgiveness is not easy, but it is necessary for Maria to move forward. In this section of the story, we see Maria finally standing up for herself, reclaiming her power, and forgiving those who caused her so much pain. The forgiveness is not instantaneous, it is a journey in itself. But it is through this act of forgiveness that Maria finds true freedom. The struggle within, the weight of judgment. Maria's journey was far from easy. Even though she found refuge in Margaret's small bakery, she could not escape the judgment of the outside world. Every step she took in the small town felt like a heavy weight, a burden that she could not shake. The whispers behind her back, the harsh glares, and the disapproving stares, these were the constant companions that followed her wherever she went. It seemed as though every person in the town had an opinion about her, about the life she was carrying, and the mistakes that had led her to this point. The social stigma surrounding her pregnancy weighed down on her, reminding her of her so-called disgrace at every turn. Despite Margaret's kindness, Maria could not shield herself from the society's cruel judgment. The pressure to conform to societal expectations and live up to others' ideals was suffocating. She was constantly haunted by the voices that sought to remind her of her perceived failures. As Maya Angelou once wrote, "You will encounter many judgments, but don't let them make you fail." Maria understood this truth, but it was easier said than done. She could feel the weight of the world pushing against her spirit, reminding her at every turn of how far she had fallen from the world's idea of acceptable. In her heart, Maria knew she could not let these judgments define her. But the societal pressure was immense. Everywhere she turned, there were reminders of the paths others believed she should have taken. Being young, pregnant, and abandoned by her family placed her at odds with a society that valued perfection and conformity. In many ways, she became the embodiment of society's failure to offer compassion to those who fell outside of the norm. Maria struggled to reconcile the image of herself that society painted with the woman she was trying to become. In these moments of deep despair, the wisdom of Maya Angelou echoed in her mind. We may encounter many defeats, but we must not be defeated. This was the crux of Maria's internal battle. How could she rise above the judgment and shame placed upon her when the world around her seemed intent on tearing her down? It was a question that weighed heavily on her soul, and the answer would take time. For Maria, her path to healing and self-discovery would involve learning to reject the harsh judgments of others and reclaim her sense of self-worth, not based on societal standards, but on her own. A glimmer of hope. Amid the harshness of her reality, there came a moment of clarity. Through all the pain and suffering, Maria began to see a glimmer of hope. It wasn't immediate, nor was it grand. It was small, like a flickering candle in the dark, but it was enough to give her the strength to keep going. One evening, as Maria sat in Margaret's bakery, she looked out the window at the world beyond. She thought about her daughter, Anna, who would soon be born, and the life she wanted to give her. Maria realized that in order to create a future for Anna, she needed to let go of the past that had held her captive. Hope, Maria learned, was not something that could be taken away. It was a fire that burned deep inside, no matter how much the world tried to extinguish it. Hope is a thing with feathers, Maya Angelou once said, that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words. For Maria, hope became the song she carried with her quiet and sometimes faint, but always there, urging her to continue, to fight, and to believe that things could be different. This spark of hope marked the beginning of a transformation in Maria's life. It was not easy, and there were many moments when the weight of her struggles felt unbearable. But in those moments, she clung to the thought of a better future not just for herself, but for her daughter as well. She could not undo the past, but she could create a future filled with possibility, a future where the mistakes of her youth would not define her forever. Hope became Maria's shield against the cruelty of the world, and as she nurtured that hope, she began to see small changes within herself. Her determination grew stronger. She started to believe in her own worth, and the once overwhelming judgments of others began to lose their power over her. In the face of adversity, Maria learned that hope was not just a fleeting feeling, it was an action, a decision to believe in something better. And as long as she could keep that hope alive, she would continue to rise above the judgment and find her way forward. The path to self-discovery. Finding a purpose. As Maria's journey continued, she began to realize that she was no longer just living for herself. She had a responsibility to her daughter, Anna, to give her a better life than the one Maria had experienced. It was in this realization that Maria found her purpose. The thought of raising Anna in a world filled with judgment and cruelty drove Maria to work harder, to push through the pain, and to create a life where her daughter could thrive. Maya Angelou once said, "We don't live for what has happened to us, but for what we can make of it." For Maria, this became her guiding principle. The hardships she had endured were not just obstacles, they were the building blocks of her strength. She realized that the pain she had experienced could be used to fuel her future, not as a burden, but as a source of motivation. Maria found purpose in the idea of being a mother who could provide for her child, who could rise above her circumstances, and who could teach her daughter the power of resilience. As Maria worked alongside Margaret in the bakery, she began to take pride in the work she was doing. She no longer saw herself as a victim of her circumstances, but as someone who had the power to shape her destiny. The more she focused on her daughter's future, the more she realized that her own future was still in her hands. She was not defined by her past. She was defined by what she chose to do moving forward. Accepting the past. For Maria to move forward, she had to first accept the painful past that had shaped her. The shame she felt, the abandonment by her parents, and the judgment of society all weighed heavily on her. But as she began to focus on her purpose, her daughter, Anna Maria realized that she could not keep running from her past. Accepting it was the only way to free herself from the chains that had bound her for so long. Maya Angelou's words on forgiveness echoed in Maria's mind. Forgiveness is not forgetting, it is letting go of the hurt. Maria knew that forgiving herself was the first step toward healing. She had to let go of the shame and guilt that she had carried for so long. The pain of being rejected by her parents, the judgment of the community, and the constant reminders of her mistakes had to be released if she was to truly heal. It was not easy for Maria to accept the past, but as she worked side by side with Margaret, slowly rebuilding her life, she realized that the power to change her future lay not in erasing the past, but in how she chose to move forward from it. She began to understand that her past was a part of her story, but it did not have to dictate her future. Through acceptance, Maria found freedom. She forgave herself for the mistakes she had made, understanding that she had done the best she could with the knowledge and circumstances she had at the time. By letting go of the anger and resentment, Maria created space for healing and growth. And in this healing, she found the strength to be the mother her daughter needed, the strength to embrace her own worth, and the strength to move forward into a brighter future. The path to self-discovery. Finding a purpose. Maria's transformation began when she realized that her life was no longer just about herself, it was now about her daughter, Anna. The moment she understood this, Maria began to find her purpose. She was no longer driven by the need for acceptance or approval from the world around her. Instead, her purpose became rooted in something much greater, her desire to build a better future for her daughter. In the early days of her struggle, Maria's primary focus was on survival. She was lost in the pain of her abandonment, the judgment of society, and the deep wounds left by her past. But as time passed, the image of Anna, her unborn child, became more than just a reminder of her responsibility, it became her reason for living. The love she felt for Anna ignited something inside her. It sparked the beginning of her own healing process. This moment of clarity and determination marked the turning point in Maria's journey. As Maya Angelou once said, "We do not live for what has happened to us, but for what we can make of it." Maria began to shift her focus from the bitterness and pain of her past to the hope of building a future for her daughter. With this newfound purpose, Maria found herself able to cope with the pressures of society. She started to view her struggles as the raw material for her growth, not as obstacles to her happiness. In her quiet moments, when she was alone and able to reflect, Maria realized that her past, although painful, had given her strength. It was through the pain of abandonment, judgment, and rejection that she had learned to fight for something bigger than herself. She began to see her life as a journey of growth, a journey that was not defined by the mistakes of her past, but by her ability to overcome them. The love she had for Anna and her commitment to give her a better life became the guiding force in her life. Maria's purpose became her anchor, something she could hold on to in times of doubt. It helped her weather the storms of judgment, societal pressure, and isolation. For the first time in a long time, she felt empowered. The strength she had been searching for all along had been inside her, waiting to be awakened by her love for her daughter. And with that strength came a renewed sense of self-worth. Maria began to understand that her purpose was not just about surviving, it was about thriving for herself and for Anna. Accepting the past. In order to fully move forward, Maria had to confront the most difficult part of her journey, accepting her past. For years, she had carried the weight of her abandonment, rejection, and the judgment of others. She had let these experiences define her, and they had become the source of her deepest pain. But as she began to heal, Maria realized that in order to truly move on, she had to let go of the anger, guilt, and shame that held her captive. Accepting the past did not mean forgetting it. It did not mean pretending that the hurt and betrayal she had experienced did not matter. Rather, it meant acknowledging that her past had shaped her, but it did not have to define her future. As Maya Angelou wisely stated, forgiveness is not forgetting, it is letting go of the hurt. Maria realized that by holding onto the pain of her past, she was only allowing it to control her life. In order to free herself, she had to forgive first and foremost herself. Forgiving herself was the hardest part of the process. Maria had been so consumed by the belief that she had failed her family, failed her community, and failed herself that she could not imagine a future where she could find peace. But through her journey of self-discovery, Maria began to understand that forgiveness was not about condoning what had happened to her. It was about releasing herself from the burden of anger and resentment. She took small steps towards healing, allowing herself to feel the pain of her past without letting it control her. Every time the memories of rejection and judgment resurfaced, Maria gently reminded herself that she was not the same person she had been when those events occurred. She had grown. She had learned. She was no longer defined by the mistakes of her past, but by the strength she had gained from overcoming them. As she continued to work alongside Margaret in the bakery, Maria began to make peace with the person she had been. She no longer saw herself as a victim of her circumstances, but as a survivor, a woman who had learned to thrive in the face of adversity. This acceptance of her past was not a sign of weakness. It was a sign of strength. It was a sign that Maria had come to understand that her past, with all its pain and heartache, was simply a chapter in her story. And that chapter did not have to dictate the rest of her life. Maria also realized that part of accepting her past meant learning how to forgive the people who had hurt her. This was not an easy task. Her parents' abandonment still hurt deeply, and the judgment from the community weighed heavily on her heart. But Maria knew that forgiveness was not about allowing others to escape responsibility for their actions. It was about freeing herself from the chains of bitterness and resentment that had kept her emotionally bound for so long. Through this process of forgiveness, Maria found a deeper sense of peace. She understood that by forgiving her parents, she was not excusing their behavior. She was simply releasing herself from the pain they had caused her. This was a crucial step in her healing journey, and it allowed her to move forward with a clearer heart and mind. Maria's journey towards self-acceptance was a slow and often painful process, but it was a process she had to go through in order to truly heal. She had to face the hurt, acknowledge the trauma, and ultimately choose to release it. This was the only way for Maria to find the freedom she longed for, the freedom to live fully without the weight of her past holding her back. Through acceptance, Maria was able to transform her pain into strength. Her past no longer had power over her. She had learned to take ownership of her story, and in doing so, she had found the courage to live authentically. This is the essence of forgiveness and self-acceptance. It is not about erasing the past, but about choosing to move forward, letting go of the hurt, and embracing the possibility of a better future. The power of forgiveness. Reaching out. After enduring so much pain and abandonment, Maria had reached a turning point in her life. She had come to a place where she was ready to open her heart once more and allow her mother, Isabella, back into her life. This was not a decision Maria made lightly. The wounds left by her mother's rejection ran deep, and the scars from years of neglect were not easily erased. However, Maria recognized that forgiveness was not just about letting Isabella back in. It was about freeing herself from the weight of anger and resentment that had consumed her for so long. In the early stages of their relationship, Maria kept her distance. She wasn't sure if she could truly forgive Isabella for the years of hurt she had caused. But, as Maya Angelou wisely stated, we cannot change the past, but we can change the way we view it. Maria's decision to reach out to her mother was a conscious choice to shift her perspective. She realized that holding on to her anger would only prolong her suffering. By choosing to forgive, she was choosing to heal not just for Isabella, but for herself. Forgiveness, as Maria learned, does not require forgetting. It does not mean excusing the behavior of others. It simply means choosing to move forward despite the pain. It is a courageous act of self-liberation. Forgiveness allows a person to release the emotional chains of the past and step into a future that is no longer defined by those who have wronged them. Maria's decision to welcome her mother back into her life was a symbolic act of breaking the cycle of pain and abandonment that had defined their relationship for so long. It was also an acknowledgement that people can change. In order for Maria to live a life free from bitterness and regret, she had to learn to let go of the past and embrace the possibility of reconciliation. This process of reaching out was a long one. Maria had to fight against the voices of doubt and fear that told her she would be hurt again. But in reaching out to Isabella, she also discovered that forgiveness is a deeply personal journey. She was not forgiving Isabella for her mother's sake alone. She was forgiving her to reclaim her peace, her power, and her future. Maria's willingness to forgive marked the beginning of the restoration of their bond. This was not the end of their story, but a new chapter that held the promise of healing and renewal. By choosing to forgive, Maria freed herself from the shackles of her past, opening herself up to a future full of possibility and hope. The healing power of love. Forgiveness, as Maria soon realized, is not just about the individual who has been wronged. It is also about healing the one who has caused the harm. As Maria forgave Isabella, she opened the door for her mother to heal as well. Love, when given freely, has the incredible power to restore what has been broken. In forgiving her mother, Maria gave Isabella the chance to heal her own wounds and, in turn, helped to heal their fractured relationship. Isabella had lived with the guilt of abandoning her daughter for years, and Maria's forgiveness was the first step in breaking the cycle of regret and shame. As Maya Angelou beautifully expressed, forgiveness is the greatest gift you can give to yourself. While Maria had initially struggled with the idea of forgiving Isabella, she soon understood that her forgiveness was not just for her mother, it was also for her. It was a way for Maria to release the burden of the past and move forward with love and compassion. The process of healing through love is not immediate. It takes time, patience, and a willingness to be vulnerable. Both Maria and Isabella had to be open to the process of forgiveness, understanding that it would not erase the past, but it would allow them to create a new, healthier relationship moving forward. As the two women began to rebuild their connection, they discovered that love could heal even the deepest wounds. Maria's love for her mother helped her to understand that no one is perfect and that everyone makes mistakes. Her mother, too, needed to experience healing. The guilt and shame that Isabella had carried for so many years began to lift as she felt Maria's unconditional love. This love was not just an act of kindness, it was a transformative force that allowed both women to find peace with their pasts. Maria's journey of forgiveness and healing was not only about the restoration of her relationship with Isabella, it was also about the renewal of her own sense of self. By forgiving Isabella, Maria freed herself from the negative energy that had been holding her back. Love, in its purest form, is liberating. It allows people to grow, to let go, and to create a new future. The healing power of love is a theme that resonates deeply with Maya Angelou's philosophy. In her life and writing, Angelou often emphasized the importance of love as a transformative force. Love is not a passive feeling, it is an active choice to care, to forgive, and to support one another. In this context, Maria's forgiveness of Isabella can be seen as an act of love that transformed both their lives. As the months passed, Maria and Isabella began to develop a new relationship, one based on mutual respect, understanding, and, most importantly, love. It was a process that required both of them to confront their past mistakes and to make the conscious choice to forgive, heal, and move forward. Through their journey, they learned that love is not just about the good times, it is also about finding strength and healing in the face of adversity. Maria's willingness to forgive and Isabella's ability to accept that forgiveness created a new bond between mother and daughter. Together, they were able to face the future with hope and optimism, knowing that they had the strength to overcome any obstacle. Love, as they both discovered, is not just about surviving the storms, it is about growing stronger because of them, reclaiming power, taking control. After facing immense adversity and emotional turmoil, Maria made a bold decision. She opened a small cafe. This cafe wasn't just a business venture for her, it symbolized her journey toward reclaiming her life, taking control, and redefining her future. The cafe became more than just a place to serve coffee. It was a sanctuary, a beacon of hope and empowerment, not only for Maria, but for everyone who walked through its doors. Maria's decision to build this cafe was rooted in her desire to create positive change, not just in her own life, but in the lives of others who had been similarly marginalized or abandoned. The power to take control of one's own fate is a central theme in the work of Maya Angelou. Angelou often wrote about the resilience of the human spirit, emphasizing the importance of self-empowerment and agency in one's own life. She believed that every individual has the ability to shape their own destiny, regardless of the challenges they face. Maria's decision to open the cafe, despite the many obstacles she had faced, serves as a clear embodiment of this belief. Through her actions, Maria proved that, regardless of past hurts and rejections, the power to change one's life always lies within. The cafe allowed Maria to express herself and take ownership of her future. It was a place where she could not only earn a living, but also establish her independence. The success of the cafe became a symbol of her strength and determination, and it sent a powerful message to everyone who knew her story. No matter how difficult life may seem, there is always a path forward, one that is shaped by the choices we make. Maya Angelou often spoke about the importance of agency in her own life, and Maria's journey reflects that sentiment perfectly. Opening the cafe wasn't just about creating a business. It was about Maria asserting control over her own life, carving out a space where she could thrive and grow. By choosing to take action rather than remain passive, Maria redefined what was possible for herself. She showed that, even in the face of overwhelming odds, we all have the ability to shape our own futures through our choices and actions. Maria's decision to take control of her life through the cafe was not just about survival. It was about empowerment. She didn't want to merely exist. She wanted to live fully, to create something meaningful that would not only support her family, but also provide an avenue for personal growth and healing. By building her own path, Maria reclaimed her power, proving to herself and the world that she could overcome any obstacle and emerge stronger than before. The strength to stand alone. As Maria continued to navigate the challenges of her new life, she faced moments where everything seemed to fall apart. Financial difficulties, social isolation, and personal doubts often threatened to overwhelm her. Yet, through all these challenges, Maria learned one of the most crucial lessons of her life: the strength to stand alone. She realized that in order to truly be free, to claim her independence, she had to rely on herself, her own abilities, resilience, and determination. This realization came at a pivotal moment when everything seemed to be collapsing. She could no longer rely on others to fix her problems or provide emotional support. Maria had to find her own way through the darkness, with no one else to lean on. She understood that, in order to achieve true freedom, she had to learn how to be self-sufficient, to trust in her own judgment, and to make decisions that were best for her and her future. This was a monumental step in her journey towards self-discovery and empowerment. Maya Angelou often wrote about the strength that comes from standing on one's own 2 feet. In her works, she emphasized the importance of self-reliance and the deep inner strength that emerges when we stop depending on others for our happiness or success. Maria's story exemplifies this idea. She learned that, although having support from others is valuable, true power lies in our ability to face life's challenges independently, with courage and resilience. In the face of adversity, Maria was no longer afraid of standing alone. She realized that her survival didn't depend on anyone else's approval or assistance. It depended on her own determination and the strength she had cultivated within herself. She understood that no one could truly hurt her unless she allowed them to. And this understanding freed her from the chains of self-doubt and fear that had once held her back. In this way, Maria not only reclaimed her power, but she also gained a profound sense of inner peace. Her journey of standing alone was also a journey of personal growth. Maria discovered that, by relying on herself, she became more resilient, more self-aware, and more confident. She wasn't just surviving anymore, she was thriving. The cafe, her sanctuary of independence, became the place where she could stand tall and claim her worth. As Maya Angelou once said, "You may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them." This quote perfectly encapsulates Maria's journey. Despite the circumstances that had been thrust upon her rejection from her family, the societal judgment, the struggles to make ends meet, Maria chose not to be diminished by them. Instead, she chose to rise, to stand strong, and to build the life she wanted. Her story is a testament to the power of resilience, the strength of the human spirit, and the transformative effect of self-reliance. Maria's transformation from a young woman filled with uncertainty to a strong, independent individual serves as a powerful reminder to all of us that true freedom comes not from external circumstances, but from the choices we make to embrace our own strength. Through her journey, she not only reclaimed her power, but also showed others that, no matter the difficulties they face, they too can stand strong, stand alone, and ultimately find the peace and happiness they deserve. Healing and redemption. Rebuilding trust. After enduring significant emotional pain and loss, Maria faced the challenging but necessary task of rebuilding trust in herself and those around her. Having experienced betrayal and abandonment from her family and being ostracized by society, Maria had been left with deep emotional scars. Trust, something she once took for granted, had become something she struggled to rebuild. Yet, as she navigated her healing process, she understood that trust was the cornerstone of all relationships, both with others and with herself. In the words of Maya Angelou, trust is the foundation of all relationships. For Maria, this statement resonated deeply as she embarked on the arduous journey of trust reconstruction. The fractures in her relationship with her family were not easily repaired. Despite the heartache and pain caused by her mother's abandonment and the judgment from those around her, Maria chose to give herself and others a chance for growth. She realized that healing could only begin when she opened herself to the possibility of trusting again. Building trust, however, was not a simple process. Maria had to learn to trust in the goodness of others, something that had been challenging after years of neglect. She had been hurt before, and the fear of further betrayal loomed in the background. Yet, as she learned to forgive, she also began to rediscover the power of vulnerability and connection. Trust became a vital aspect of her emotional restoration. With each small step, whether it was reconciling with her mother or opening up to new friendships, Maria was slowly reclaiming her capacity to trust again. This process of rebuilding trust wasn't just about reconnecting with people from her past. It was about reclaiming her belief in herself. For Maria, trust was not only extended to others, but also to her own judgment and her ability to navigate the complexities of life. She learned that trust was not a one-time event, but an ongoing journey of reestablishing faith in her surroundings, her choices, and her future. Maya Angelou frequently wrote about the importance of trust in relationships. For Angelou, trust was not just an abstract concept. It was a practical, essential part of personal growth and healing. Angelou's own life demonstrated that trust could be broken, but also rebuilt. Similarly, Maria's journey was one of rediscovery and forgiveness, a journey that was painful but ultimately empowering. By allowing herself to rebuild trust, Maria was opening the door to future possibilities, strengthening her emotional resilience, and laying the groundwork for deeper, healthier connections. In this phase of her life, Maria came to understand that healing required more than just moving on from the past. It required a conscious decision to reestablish trust in herself and others. It was a transformative process that allowed her to rediscover love, hope, and peace in a world that had once seemed so harsh. Through her efforts, Maria embodied the principle that forgiveness and trust are powerful tools for healing and moving forward. The struggle for redemption. While Maria had made incredible progress in her healing journey, the road to full redemption was far from smooth. She had forgiven those who had wronged her, including her mother and society, but this forgiveness did not instantly erase the feelings of guilt, shame, and regret that still plagued her. She was confronted daily by memories of her past, and these memories often brought with them feelings of unworthiness. Despite the steps she had taken toward healing, Maria found herself struggling with the belief that she had done something irredeemable. Maya Angelou, in her exploration of personal transformation, often wrote about the idea of starting over and the importance of changing oneself. Angelou believed that redemption is not a single event, but an ongoing process of self-discovery and growth. For Maria, the act of redemption was deeply entwined with the battle to forgive herself. This internal struggle to come to terms with her past was perhaps the most difficult aspect of her journey. Maria's desire for redemption led her to share her story with her community. By telling her story, she aimed not only to heal herself, but also to offer hope to others who were going through similar hardships. She wanted to show that no one is defined by their mistakes or their past, and that redemption is possible for anyone willing to work through their struggles. Sharing her story became an act of both healing and empowerment, allowing Maria to let go of the guilt that had once defined her life. In addition to speaking out, Maria turned to her community for support. By opening up about her struggles, she found that there were others who had also faced rejection, judgment, and pain. These shared experiences created a bond, and through these connections, Maria realized that redemption was not an individual pursuit. It was a collective journey. She found solace and strength in knowing that she was not alone in her experiences, and in helping others, she discovered a deeper sense of meaning and purpose. In Maya Angelou's writings, the process of redemption is not just about forgiveness from others. It is about self-forgiveness and embracing one's own humanity. Angelou's works consistently emphasize that redemption is found in the courage to confront one's past and to seek growth despite the challenges. Maria, too, realized that to fully heal, she had to confront the darkest parts of her past and forgive herself. By doing so, she liberated herself from the chains of guilt and shame, allowing her to embrace a brighter, more hopeful future. Maria's struggle for redemption was marked by a series of emotional breakthroughs and moments of vulnerability. It was a constant process of shedding the weight of regret and learning to accept that mistakes do not define a person's worth. Through her journey, She learned that redemption is a gift that must first be given to oneself before it can be extended to others. This realization was pivotal in Maria's continued growth. She began to see herself not as a victim of her past, but as a survivor or someone who had endured and emerged stronger and more compassionate. Maya Angelou's wisdom is embodied in Maria's struggle. As Angelou often said, "We may encounter many defeats, but we must not be defeated." Maria's journey to redemption was not an easy one, but it was one that ultimately led her to a deeper understanding of herself and her place in the world. Her path toward healing and forgiveness was not linear, but with each step, she moved closer to the redemption she sought. The act of sharing her story and seeking both forgiveness and understanding allowed her to find peace within herself and to help others who had experienced similar pain. In doing so, Maria discovered that redemption is not a destination. It is a journey that continues to unfold as we grow, learn, and heal. Through these powerful lessons, Maria found that the struggle for redemption was ultimately an act of love for herself, love for those she had wronged, and love for the community that had once rejected her. It was through this love that she found peace, healing, and a renewed sense of purpose. The rise of strength, becoming a role model. Maria's journey from a young girl burdened with shame to a strong, confident woman was a testament to the power of perseverance and self-belief. Having found peace within herself and learned to embrace her past, Maria now felt compelled to share her strength with others. She realized that her story could be a beacon of hope for women who had faced similar challenges, and she made a decision to become a role model, someone who could inspire others to rise above their circumstances. Maria's transformation had not been easy, but it had shaped her into someone capable of leading by example. She was no longer defined by the mistakes of her past, but by the strength and resilience she had cultivated through her struggles. Recognizing that there were many women like her, abandoned and rejected by society, Maria decided to use her voice to help others. She opened an organization designed to support women who had been ostracized, empowering them to find their own strength and rebuild their lives. Maya Angelou once said, "I want to be the best example of who I am, to be the best example of what I can be." Maria embraced this idea fully, understanding that her past struggles had prepared her to be a guiding light for others. She understood that strength wasn't about being perfect. It was about using one's experiences, good or bad, to uplift others. Maria's organization became a safe space for women to share their stories, seek support, and most importantly, find the strength to reclaim their lives. By stepping into the role of a mentor and leader, Maria demonstrated the power of transformation. She showed that anyone could rise from the ashes of their past, no matter how difficult the journey. In helping others heal, she also continued her own healing process. She found that when you become a role model, you are constantly reminded of the resilience within you. Maria knew that she was not just telling her story for herself, but for all the women who needed to hear it. Through her work, she became an embodiment of the idea that it is never too late to rewrite your story. Empowering others. With her new role as a leader, Maria's focus shifted to not only helping women survive, but empowering them to thrive. She worked with various organizations that focused on supporting marginalized groups and actively sought out young women who were facing struggles similar to her own. Maria's goal was to help them understand that they were not defined by their circumstances and that they had the power to shape their own destinies. Maria's ability to connect with these young women stemmed from her own experiences. She knew firsthand the feeling of being alone, of not having anyone to turn to, and of being judged by society. As someone who had once felt abandoned and worthless, she became a voice of compassion and understanding for those who were in the same position. Maria's work wasn't just about providing practical support, but about instilling confidence and self-worth in these women, making them believe that they too could overcome their challenges. Maya Angelou's famous quote, "We all should know that diversity makes for a rich tapestry, and we must understand that all the threads of the tapestry are equal in value. spoke to Maria's belief in the power of community and the importance of helping others find their voice. She encouraged women to embrace their individuality and to see their experiences as sources of strength rather than shame. Through her work, Maria was helping to break down the barriers that society often places on marginalized groups, allowing them to see themselves as powerful agents of change. By empowering these women, Maria helped them understand that they were not helpless victims of their circumstances. Instead, they were strong individuals who had the ability to take control of their lives. Maria created opportunities for them to learn new skills, find stable employment, and build support networks that would help them on their journey to independence. Her efforts created a ripple effect. Each woman she helped empowered someone else. And in this way, Maria's influence continued to grow. Through her work with these organizations, Maria also began to feel a deep sense of fulfillment. She saw the change she was helping to create, not only in the lives of the women she worked with, but also in her own life. The act of giving back became a powerful tool for her continued healing. As she helped others find their own strength, she felt her own strength deepening, reminding her that healing is an ongoing journey that requires us to support each other along the way. Maria's ability to transform her own pain into power and then use that power to uplift others became her legacy. She had learned that true empowerment comes from sharing our experiences and helping others realize their potential. As she continued to work with young women, she saw them start to believe in themselves, reclaim their confidence, and create better futures for themselves and their families. It was a beautiful cycle of transformation that left a lasting impact on both Maria and the women she helped. Maya Angelou believed that each time a woman stands up for herself, without knowing it possibly, without claiming it, she stands up for all women. Maria embodied this idea in everything she did. She stood up for herself, for her daughter, and for all the women who had been silenced by shame and rejection. Through her work, she gave them the tools to stand up for themselves as well. And in doing so, she helped to change the world one woman at a time. Maria's journey wasn't just about overcoming her own obstacles, it was about helping others do the same. By empowering others, she found her own strength. And through that strength, she was able to create a legacy of healing, hope, and transformation that would live on for generations to come. A legacy of love and strength, building a better future. After years of struggle and perseverance, Maria and her daughter, Anna, found themselves embarking on a new chapter in life. Their journey was no longer one of survival. It had transformed into one of hope, opportunity, and a brighter future. With the support of each other and the community that had slowly embraced them, they opened a small cafe, a place where warmth, compassion, and kindness could flourish. The cafe wasn't just a business. It was a symbol of a new life they were building, a testament to Maria's transformation from a young girl rejected by society to a powerful woman who was shaping her own destiny. As Maria watched Anna grow, she knew that she had to provide her with a future free from the burdens and injustices that had defined her own childhood. Maria had faced immense challenges, being rejected by her family, struggling with societal judgment, and enduring countless hardships, but through it all, she learned to rise above. Now, she was determined to ensure that Anna would not have to face the same trials. Maria's dream was simple: to give Anna a world filled with opportunities, where love and compassion replace shame and rejection. Maya Angelou once said, "The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams." Maria embodied this wisdom fully. She had dreamed of a better life for herself and her daughter, and she was turning that dream into reality. With the cafe, Maria provided not just financial stability, but also a sense of purpose for both herself and Anna. It was a place where people could come together, share stories, and feel accepted. It wasn't just about serving coffee, it was about creating a space of belonging, a space where everyone who walked through the door felt seen, heard, and valued. Maria's life had been a journey of self-discovery, and now she was creating a future where Anna could thrive. Every step they took together was a step towards healing and growth. Maria was no longer defined by her past. She had reclaimed her future. And with Anna by her side, Maria knew that the possibilities for their lives were endless. The cafe was their foundation, and through it, they were building a life that was not burdened by the past, but shaped by hope for a better tomorrow. Passing on the lessons, Maria's story was not just one of survival. It was a story of transformation, healing, and ultimately of giving back. As she rebuilt her life, she realized that her journey was not just for herself. The lessons she had learned, the importance of resilience, forgiveness, and love were lessons that she needed to share with others. In a world that often seems to place obstacles in the way of the vulnerable, Maria chose to use her experience to empower others, particularly women who were facing the same challenges she once did. Her cafe became more than just a business. It became a hub for community support and activism. Maria began hosting workshops and gatherings for women who had experienced trauma or rejection, sharing her story and encouraging others to take control of their lives. She taught them that they were not defined by their past, and that the power to change their futures lay within them. Through her organization, Maria helped women heal and reclaim their strength, just as she had done. Maya Angelou's words, "We may encounter many defeats, but we must not be defeated," rang true for Maria. She had faced defeat in her life many times, but she had never allowed those defeats to define her. Instead, she used them as fuel for her transformation. Now, she was passing on the lessons she had learned to others, ensuring that they, too, could find strength in their struggles. Maria understood the power of storytelling and how sharing one's experiences could inspire change. She had once felt invisible, rejected, and broken, but now she was teaching others that they, too, could rise above their circumstances. Through her cafe, Maria created a space where women could share their stories, connect with one another, and find hope in the midst of hardship. Her actions were a living example of how one person's resilience could create ripples of change in an entire community. As Anna grew older, Maria shared with her the importance of compassion, forgiveness, and the power of giving back. Anna became an active part of the cafe's efforts to help those in need, and together, they formed a team dedicated to creating a world of kindness and support. The cafe was no longer just a place to buy coffee. It was a place to find hope, a place where people could come together and heal. Maria knew that her journey was far from over, but she had created a foundation for Anna, one built on love, strength, and hope. The legacy Maria was creating was one of empowerment and healing. And as she looked at her daughter, she saw that this legacy would live on for generations to come. Maria's story was a reminder that no matter how dark the past may seem, the future holds the promise of transformation. She had learned that the key to healing was not only forgiving others, but also forgiving herself. Through her work with the community, Maria demonstrated the power of love, compassion, and shared experiences in healing the wounds of the past. As Maria continued to work with women, helping them rebuild their lives, she saw the impact her efforts were having. The community was growing stronger, and more women were finding the strength to stand up for themselves. Maria had shown them that it was possible to rise from the ashes of their pasts and create a future full of possibility and hope. Through the lessons Maria passed on, the strength of her character, and the compassion she showed, she was building a legacy that would inspire and uplift generations to come. The cafe, the workshops, and the community outreach programs were just the beginning. Maria's work was far-reaching, and her legacy of love and strength would continue to ripple out into the world, touching lives and empowering others to rise above their circumstances. Thank you for watching and following along with Maria's incredible journey. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Stories TH for more heartwarming and inspiring stories. Remember, every moment counts, and your support helps us bring more stories to life. See you in the next video.